There we go. So official welcome to everyone. And yeah, so to our live attendees and to those who will be joining us later. So we're going to be focusing, well, at least initially, on the full moon in Aquarius coming up on August the 1st. I believe it's 2:31 p.m. EST, but I'm not sure, where you are. That'll be a different time. And the sun is in Leo. So very expansive type of energy. And I was watching, I always watch different or listen to different podcasts on astrology, not always, but often. Is Braca Goldsmith. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Braca Goldsmith. She has a beautiful energy. She broadcasts does videos from Greece and on astrology, and yeah, she just has this a wonderful perspective. And so she was talking about this full moon because the Aquarius energy, it's an air sign, so it tends to be quite intellectual. It's the 11th house. It's the ruler of the 11th house, or the sign of the 11th house. So 11th house is definitely sort of more of a macro influence in our lives. And it's a social house. It can be, connecting with others for altruism, for doing better in the world, and also very original. And so that's the influence of its ruling planet. I think I'll just do a quick share one of my screens here. I didn't do a formal presentation, but I have this little iconograph. So we're looking at two ruling planets. I believe Saturn is more of the ancient ruler, but I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I recall. And then Uranus is really the rebel. So, I mean, Saturn is far more structured, and Uranus represents, very inventive AI. I've been thinking a lot about artificial intelligence these days. Perhaps many of us are, because we're hearing a lot of that in the news, and I think that there can be a lot of fear around that. I actually came up in, I've talked to you about Mindscape before, which is a BodyTalk program that allows us to access our intuition. And so I use that on a regular basis. And one of the rooms that I have in my Mindscape is a library, and the library traditionally has been very sort of ancient looking. It's very, very Harry Potter-esque, and just beautiful tall ceilings and all these old books and volumes. But the last time I went in, it's actually expanded. I said, I've been feeling that I wanted to sort of expand that space. And so what came up in the expansion was this super modern area. So I've gone from, it's actually still, it's all together. So on the one side is this really sort of ancient knowledge, this access to wisdom, more in a magical sense. And then the other area that's just open up is about technology, which is definitely Aquarian energy and the energy of Uranus. So I feel that there may be something in that. So this whole space opened up, and I was thinking about this AI, because there seems to be a lot of fear about AI, artificial intelligence as well. And I've been trying to adapt to it at more of a conscious level, in that, I get these updates, and I'm sure we're all getting this, like updates on our phones and our computers, and where we're really seeing the changes. They may not even be so overt, there may be more subtle, but they're definitely there. You can get a sense that, wow, this is really, reading my style of writing when I get to type something, or, there's a lot of there's this kind of automatic, it's picking up my patterns much more quickly. And so initially I was like, ah! But at the same time, I can sense the benefits. There are benefits here. So I'm trying to be more neutral about that energy. So I just thought I'd share that. So, and I've included a couple of archetypes here. And, these are by no means limited, but I include them just because it just helps to give an understanding of how this archetypal energy of Aquarius can present itself in our lives. And the inventor, so very inventive, original. I talked about that sort of being individual, expressing your individuality. In this, the energy healing arts, even though they're becoming more and more mainstream as time goes by, it's still for many people on the outskirts. So a lot of us are familiar with being looked upon as more of individual or original, and sometimes rebellious. In that way. And it can also relate to very quick changes, and almost like catalyst. So from a BodyTalk perspective, when Dr. John Beltime was developing the 12 astrological house charts for us to use in our sessions, he correlated the 12 meridians with them. And so for the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius, he correlates the gallbladder meridian, and that is very much the energy of catalyst, of decision making, quick movement, and even our drive. So I just find that, it makes a lot of sense to me. So I just thought I would share that as well. And so I don't know if, many of you have what kind of influences you have of Aquarius or these planets in your chart, what's in your 11th house, but I did want to share this information for you. I also included a couple keywords, but I don't know that they really, that they're encompass enough. So this network, I think sometimes network has a negative charge to it, because they're a network, or but it's connecting, right? It's a connector. And certainly inventive. And so in a way, what we're doing here could be looked upon as very Aquarius energy, because we are, coming together in a common interest, and we're using technology to do that. So that can be looked at as very Aquarian. So I'm just going to shut that down. And I really didn't have a coffee that recently, but I feel like I'm talking a mile a minute. So I have to start to take a few deep breaths so we can get into the zone of the session. And I'm just going to have a sip of my tea. Okay. So when we're looking at a full moon, we have the full moon, which means the moon is in the sign of Aquarius. And then with a full moon, there's always an opposition to the sun. And so the sun is in the opposite or absent sign, and that is in sign of Leo. And so that's that sort of head heart thing. So the sun is going to be in Leo for the next month, really. And so we've got that heart energy, that very expansive Leo energy, in opposition with more of that mind energy. So I'm not going to go into details about that potential opposition. I'm just going to let the session do the talking. But I just thought I would bring that up. There are other planetary aspects happening as well. I know I mentioned Pluto. So Pluto is forming something called a T-square or a hard square with the nodes. And so that ties in a bit when I talked about power in the email they sent you, if you had an opportunity to read that, because Pluto is very much about power and interrelational dynamics, and where we're giving our power away, and how we could potentially take it back. So again, I bring these themes in a broader level, using what's happening in astrology. But I don't always know that we're actually going to go into balancing those, because it has to be what the priority of the group, those that will be listening and those that have told me that they wanted to be part of the matrix. So we'll see what comes out. So what I'm going to ask that, you can start to take really deep breaths if you haven't done so already, and just allow get into a place where you're comfortable, and taking whatever breaths are comfortable for you. And then if you have any kind of tension or discomfort, you can invite your breath into that area to start to gently expand, or bring awareness to that part of your body that, or even emotional. So if you're feeling an emotion, unsettled emotion in some area of your body, using your breath and inviting that breath into that area just to bring more awareness to it. And that awareness is even helping to observe that and start to shift that. So, and then, so I'm going to use my mindscape. That is what's coming up as a priority for me for the first part of the session. And I'm also going to, as I go into my mindscape, I'm going to actually invite you to join me in using the 7 colors of the chakras, the 7 main chakras, to just tour through those chakras. So starting at the root or base chakra. So these chakras, for those that aren't familiar with chakras, are 7 really transformative energy centers that align with your spine and start at the base of your spine and go all the way up to the top of your head. Those are the 7 main chakras. There are many others, but I'm going to focus on the 7 main. And so I say they're transformational in the sense that they're wheels or vortexes of energy, and that information coming in will go into that vortex from that perspective and bring awareness or make it relevant in a way to what's happening for us. And so sometimes we can have so-called blocked chakras or imbalanced chakras. This isn't so much about doing that unless it comes up as a priority, but it's just really about connecting in with those energies through your senses. So oftentimes when we're doing something like this, we're using just the visual, but I'm going to invite you to engage all of your senses. So if you tend to be more of like a auditory person, you can tap into the color red, which is the color associated with your root chakra. But you can imagine what red would sound like. You can imagine an item that's red, something that pops into your mind. It could be a car, it could be an apple. You can imagine what it smells like. So I don't want to put too many ideas in your head because it's really your experience here. So, but engaging the senses within that color red. So what does it feel like? What does it taste like or smell like? And what does it sound like? And what does it look like? So, whatever senses work for you, bringing that awareness. And then the next color we're going to is the sacral chakra, which is associated with the color orange. So engaging your sense of touch and taste and smell. And what does that look like? What does that orange sound like? And then moving into the solar plexus chakra, which is yellow for the sun power chakra. And imagine what that looks like. Is it bright? Is it far away? Is it close? Does it feel warm or cool? What does it smell like? Does it have a taste or a sound? Even if there's like a word that comes to your mind in relation to this chakra. Moving into the heart chakra in the center of your chest. And this is associated with the color green. So using your imagination, your sensory imagination, connecting in with the color green through hearing it, tasting it, smelling it, seeing it, feeling it, what temperature it is. Moving up into the throat chakra, and the color associated with the throat chakra is blue, color of communication. So what does that sound like? Is it a bright color for you, or is it a faded color? Is it a darker color? Does it have a sound or taste or smell? And what does it feel like? Going into purple, which is your third eye chakra. And so again, connecting in with your senses. Is there a touch, a feeling, a temperature, a smell, a taste to this, a sound? And then finally into your crown chakra, which is violet. Sometimes it's white, so whatever color comes to you in whatever sensory experience. So just staying with that final crown chakra. So if you're not able to even sense something, bringing your breath up to the very top of your head, just imagine that when you take your breath in to your lungs, that it's traveling right to the top of your head. And so with the next breath, what I'm going to invite you to imagine is that not only is your breath traveling up to the top of your head, but then it actually, when you let go of that breath, it cascades down your body as light. So it travels almost like a waterfall from the very top crown chakra and just traveling all over your body as if it were a waterfall of light. And so again, this can be visual, or it can be imagining that you're feeling some kind of light or tingling on your skin. And it doesn't matter if you actually are or not. It's the imagination that counts in this experience. And so if you'd like, you can stay with the visualizations and can go to, someone was talking about Cape Cod, so going to a beach in your imagination, or into, your backyard or your favorite park area, wherever that is, if you want to continue that visualization and sensory exploration, and just imagine that you're resting there, feeling that fresh air all around you. Not only in breathing that fresh air in, but also in the feeling of that air against your skin and the temperature of that air, and being aware at the skin level, not only in your lungs, but also at the skin level, that that air is actually infusing into your body, and that your body is also releasing through your skin. So you're very connected to this environment through your skin. And that awareness of separation starts to dissipate in a way. It's like the awareness that we are of our environment. We are not sort of separate from it, but always part of it, like being part of the ocean. And our environment is us. So I'm now in my workshop in Mindscape, and so I like to ask what the priorities for the group in terms of sort of location, because I have many places that we could potentially go in Mindscape. So first I'm going to my elevator, and I'm inviting the group energy in, and however that will show itself. So it comes, the group energy comes in as a very kaleidoscopic ball. It's almost like a big bubble. And so there is this fluidity to it. Jupiter comes into my mind. So the kaleidoscope, lots of colors, shifting energies. And but it's a sphere. So that's how the group is coming in. And so we are going into the healing room. And so the healing room is like a, it's an open air. That's how it's coming in this time. It's like a beautiful open air. So it's a night sky and we can see all the stars. And so that's the space. And there is this Greek columns. So there's something coming up all around. So there's like an ancient kind of energy in this, like an observatory in a way. And that's interesting, you know, when you think about the observatory and observing. So much of what we do in this kind of energy work is being the observer and observing new potentials and possibilities for change. And so it's great that we're in this observatory. So now I'm just going to go more formally into the session. Okay, so the first thing that is coming up for balancing is to enhance a sense of connectivity. And it's coming up oriented to community. And so this is like your community, your people, you know, your people, people that are, that you enjoy being with. And so this helping to really open up to new potentials in deepening connection with a community that you enjoy being part of. And that, yeah, there's like a further definition here of this acceptance, like feeling a place of feeling acceptance and accepting yourself within this connection to community. And this is coming up as a consciousness, balancing, anchoring into your heart. And so when we're balancing this, it's just helping to shift potential roadblocks or beliefs that limit even observing, being aware of the potentials for connection. So this is broadening that perspective. So that's the first item. And okay, so the next thing that's coming up is the third astrological house. And that is the house of, I was going to say it's the house of Mercury. It's the house of Gemini, and Mercury is the planetary ruler. So Mercury is all about communication. I mean, it's kind of interesting when I think about Aquarius, because Aquarius is also about innovation and communication. Mercury, there's some kind of association with this. So we're going to the third astrological house. This is the time of development, early childhood represents early childhood education. Often it's kind of like, why? I remember when my little sister was around 3.5, 4 years old, and everything was why. So it's like those left brain explanations of wanting to, have that linear logical 1 + 1 = 2 kind of explanations, but then there can also be misinterpretations. So that's the energy that's coming in. And so what is coming up is this left brain explanations. And so that is linking to the 9th astrological house, which is the house of Sagittarius and Jupiter. And this is left brain. So what we're doing here is we're moving into a balancing of the left and right brain. And really, like, when I say left and right brain, it's like, the methods, how we've categorized. One is, more orderly and logical in a more linear way, and the other is more lateral and being able to see things at a broader level, and even in patterns. And so we're actually linking through these houses to create a balancing here. And there's and so what's coming up between these, it's a link, but it's also a vivaxis. So when we're looking at a vivaxis, we're looking at a shift in relationship. So the priority is to balance the relationship of the 3rd astrological house and the 9th astrological house in that left and right brain relationship. We want to bring in a balance here. So through a vivaxis. And in this case, I'm using it's like a 360-degree circle. I'm using the degrees to do a vivaxis balancing. So I'm like, am I using the house degrees? I'm not sure if I'm doing that. I'm really not that advanced in astrology, but we'll just see what comes up, right? So some kind of shift to support more harmony between the left and right brain from this lens of the 3rd house and the 9th house. So communication and education, one at education at that early childhood level, and the other is the higher education and our aspirations. So this vivax is coming in here. And so what comes up is 9 degrees. And so 9-degree shift. And so 9 degrees from an astrological perspective is also related to Sagittarius and those qualities. So it's like using that degree to that awareness of Sagittarius to, it's almost like moving more into that for helping to support the balance of left and right brain. Okay. So I need to parcel that, the 3rd to the 9th, and there's a further definition on this of hydration. So defined by hydration. And I'm not getting any further details on that. And we're going to tap this in. So for hand positions, if you'd like, you can place one hand over your navel. And I'm going to place one hand over the heart, and you can join me in tapping out. So tapping over your head with deep breaths, over your heart, and then over your belly. So tapping to integrate into the three brains, what we've just balanced, that deepening of feeling of connection and opening to more possibilities in observing more potential for connection within your community, and then linking into this left and right brain balancing 5 axis from the perspective of the 3rd and 9th astrological houses. And there's that 9 degrees as it is defined or relates to the Sagittarian energy, which is more of an expansive energy. Okay. Okay, so the next thing that's coming up is visibly the group's energy has shifted into Venus. So I'm actually seeing like the goddess of Venus instead of that orb. And so Venus rules the 2nd astrological house, Taurus, and the archetype is one of like wanting harmony and love of beautiful things, what we value in life, our relationships. So yeah, lots of that kind of energy. So that's what's coming in. I'm not sure if it's going to be part of the session, but it is informing the next part of the formula in some way, that energy. And it is more specifically of the harmonizing quality and also the values. Okay, so there is that permissions balancing coming up here. So when I'm talking about a permissions balancing in BodyTalk, we're looking at something that has potentially blocked our progress, or a shift in some way, or an aspect of ourselves that we've been holding on to. Often it could be an emotion or a way of being that has served us in some way that is ready to release. So I'm just going to establish what that is. That's a general level, so we're working at body, mind, spirit, emotion. Okay, so I double checked this. So there's a statement here, and the statement is, I give myself permission to be free. And so I double checked this because I was like, do I want details? Is it free to express myself? It's like, no, it's just whatever this means to you. I give myself permission to be free. So what I'm going to check here is we're actually grounding this in your heart. I have to do a link here. So from your heart to your 3rd eye chakra. And we're going to actually hold these hand positions. So you can join me in holding these hand positions. And then what I would like you to do is either out loud, or it's better if it's out loud. If this permissions resonates with you, say, I give myself permission to be free. And say it a couple of times, like, I give myself permission to be free. And we're going to tap this in. And if you feel like repeating that to yourself, I give myself permission to be free. I give myself permission to be free. Okay, so is there any further on this permission? No. So, okay, further on permissions? No. So I'm just going to go back in. Pardon me. Okay. Okay, so there's another theme that is coming up. I'm just, oh, you felt that, Sherry? It's funny because I was tapping it. I wasn't really feeling it, even though I didn't really resonate with the statement, but I could feel that someone was feeling it, or hopefully if you're feeling that shift. So I just felt like I needed to hold that. So yes, great. I'm glad you love it. I love it too. So the next thing that's coming up is about it's like a context in a way. I'm not sure where we're going with it, but it's like a theme, and the theme is physical joy. So, I mean, my first thing that comes to mind is I was actually thinking a few days ago, oh, I miss dancing. I miss dancing. And so there's just so many wonderful expressions of physical joy. And so there's a focus here on this. And, when we think about Venus, it's like this comfort, sensuality, and interesting that we went through those chakras in that sensory experiential way. So there's something about this. So first is this permission to be free, and now moving into this this physical sensorial joy. And so, yay, sounds good to me. Okay. Sensual joy. Yeah. So that's the theme. Okay. So let's see where we're going with this. Okay. So we are going to, we're going into Kundalini energy. So for those of you that are familiar with Kundalini energy, great. And for those that aren't, that's like another, it's not just one session, it's like an entire study, but it is an energy that is very strong creative energy. It can be a very psychic energy. It visually, I'm just going to give you a visual on it. So it's associated with the snake, and because it can rise up your spine. So it sits kind of coiled at the base of your spine around the sacral area. It is definitely associated with the 7 chakras. So there may be a reason why that came up initially. And so there are a number of channels that run up your spine that associate with this energy. And so when Kundalini is activated, it's not limited to, because there isn't a sexual component to this. And it doesn't necessarily mean like sexual as in sexuality, but the creation aspect of sexuality. So, I mean, that one of the reasons why we have joy in sexuality is so that we continue to procreate. So there's this real creative I'm not saying that's the only reason, but I'm just bringing that in as an awareness. So there's this very strong creative force within Kundalini energy, and also very strong healing, because to me, healing and creative are very, very similar, if not the same, but that's another day I've been thinking for this week. So, we're going into some kind of balancing on Kundalini. And of course, we're all individuals within this group energy. And so how this will be balanced in you will be what you require, right? Like what your body wants to be balanced in. So, and there's another channel, but honestly, I don't know the sort of technicalities about it. I know experientially from having a couple of Kundalini don't know if you call them awakenings, but experiences. And so the channels relate to our reproductive system and reproductive organs. So there's this whole association of what's coming up with this, and in this expression of physical joy. So that's the bigger picture. I just have to figure out the how now. I always know, like, oh, I know what the formula is, but I don't know exactly how we're going to get there. So I'm just going to figure that out now. So I'm just going to ask and invite you to take a few breaths with the real focus on that exhalation. So the priority is to do a consciousness balancing. And it's in relation to both the yin yang aspects of that physical expression of joy and sexuality and sensuality. So sensuality, we could say, is more of the yin, and sexuality more of the yang, but by no means is that, like all there is, but it's the yin and yang. So we're looking at the balance, but we're also looking at limitations, things that we've been taught that about sexuality. There's so much taboo, whatever that is, that has been limiting the expression and the connection with sensuality and sexuality for you at your point in development is what is coming up for shifting. And so to open up to more potential in experiencing joy and the creativity and healing potential within this energy. So, and this is coming up, as I said, at a consciousness level. There's a few other things that are coming up that I'm not going to go into details yet unless they come in, but that's the priority, and it's an individuation, really helping to bring awareness and connecting into the heart, and then bringing that awareness back into the body, more specifically into these Kundalini channels. Okay, so there is another link that's happening, and it is to self, the quality and experience of self-acceptance, particularly from the perspective of your heart chakra. In relation to sensuality and sexuality and experiencing more physical joy. And all of the potential that can arise from the motor of life that is joy in this balancing. So there's another item that's coming up, and that's linking me into your bladder and bladder energy and control. So the bladder is also being part of the family of the water element of the Chinese 5 elements. Kidney, bladder, so kidneys tends to be more associated with sensuality, whereas the bladder tends to be more associated with sexuality. And so what's also quite interesting is the bladder has a number of channels that run up and down your spine. So it does definitely correlate with the Kundalini energy as well. Kundalini being more of the tradition of Vedic tradition, but certainly not limited to that, because it arises out of that. But TCM does take that into account. So we're going into needing to balance a pathological consciousness control in the bladder. So what does that mean? It's again helping to shift and really balance a desire for an excess of control control of self. Inhibitions can be an expression of control, controlling emotions, controlling desire, controlling a natural feeling to experience something, all of those aspects, because it's in the context of this formula of this experience of more joy at that sensorial level. So balancing this and within that bladder energy. And we are going to tap this formula in. Okay, so I'm just getting hand positions. So, whatever is comfortable for you, you can either place your hands over your lower back, or you can just place them over your lower abdomen. And you can join me in tapping. So you just leave one hand lower back or lower abdomen, and then tapping over your head, over your heart, and over your gut brain for integrating this focus, this formula on expression of more physical joy, and helping to really balance factors that have been limiting more of that expression and connection with physical joy related to sensuality, associations with sensuality and sexuality, balancing beliefs, bringing more awareness to other ways of perceiving sensuality and sexuality in relation to physical body and joy. And also going into that Kundalini energy without going into too much depth in this context right now anyway. So, oh, yeah. So for those of you that are interested in learning more about Kundalini, my first exposure to the energy and the potential of healing of this energy was through BodyTalk. I had a couple of sessions, one with Dr. John Beltime, that just really opened up that energy for me at a physical experience. So I just had, there were a lot of other beneficial symptoms with it as well, but then I didn't understand a lot about what was happening to me, happening within me. So I started to explore Kundalini yoga, started to read a little bit about it. So I liked the approach of Kundalini yoga initially because it just was an insightful way of helping to balance and become aware of that energy. And I felt it was a safe environment for me, but there are many ways of exploring it. So if there's something about that calls to you, then, start looking into it. And I'm sure there are some sort of more esoteric areas within that. So again, it's like whatever draws you. So I'm feeling that that's the session is complete, but I just want to tap into our Venus to see what's happening, if anything has shifted with the energy of the group and that energy that wanted to come in for shifting. Okay. Oh, pardon me. So there's one more item that's coming up, and it's actually a 5 senses balancing. So we're going to do a balancing of all 5 senses, and it's coming up at the physical level. So in BodyTalk, we're working with 5 senses. We just think, well, how do we experience the world through our senses? And we talk about 5 senses. There are many more than that, and of course, as we go through life, we hear things and we experience things and we have emotional associations with those things, and then that starts to kind of build up filters in a way, and can sort of limit the potential of what we can actually perceive, and we start to filter out things. So when we're doing a five senses balancing, this is actually helping to do a nice clearing of those filters and helping to really bring more awareness through the five senses. And for this one, it's like you're thinking about it's like sense of touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. So you can kind of place your hands, one hand over your mouth. You can put all of them like one hand over the other over your heart, whatever is comfortable for you, thinking about how we are balancing your sense of touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing, and all at this very physical level. So even like brightness of color, or certain tones that you hear and how you hear, and memories that you associate with the sense of touch, and those can be quite powerful memories. So this is about helping to reduce emotional triggers within that sensation. And sense of touch can be also internal as well, right? So pain, pleasure, all of those associations. So really nice, full balancing to really complete this last formula in a way on this sensory potential for experiencing more physical joy. Okay, so that is our session for today. And I just want to say thank you very, very much for joining me and bringing your energy in, because it's really, I feel that it's a collective, and I'm just really grateful. Oh, you've seen two snakes. That's Jan. That is interesting. I'm just looking at the comments. Yeah. So I'm sure you were getting prepared for that, right? And it's like the channel, sometimes it's like two snakes running up with the Kundalini. So yeah, so thank you all for joining me. And so I think I'm going to be taking off most of August, but I'll definitely be starting up late August, early September again. So you all have a wonderful summer, or in our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, a good winter. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks much, Linda.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome, Huey. It's nice to have you as part of the group.